Hello and welcome to this case study video. This is for paper 2, part A, Urban Issues and Challenges. This is our NEE city case study, which is of course Rio de Janeiro. We'll start by looking at the spec, and we can see this case study again is divided up into three main areas. So at the top here we've got the location and importance of the city. Down here we've got how this city has created opportunities. Just down here, we've got how this urban growth has created challenges. Now, in this section, we also need to be aware of how the challenges have been overcome with solutions. You could be asked a question such as, assess how urban growth has created challenges in a city you have studied. And in order to assess properly, you also need to be able to say how this city is creating solutions to solve the challenges. So when we look at our case study, we're going to look at the solutions as well. At the bottom here, we can see an example of how urban planning is improving the quality of life for the urban poor. And for this case study, it will of course be the Favela Beiro project. So it's Rio de Janeiro. We're going to run through our picture case study. You've all got a copy of this, and what we're going to do in this video is break each section down. Okay, so I'll just come out of here, go into here, press play on here, and you can see it's divided up into importance, opportunities. I've made the challenges circle bigger just to represent the fact that this is where most of your knowledge needs to come from. We've got the urban planning to improve the quality of life for the poor here, and finally our picture. And in the corner here we've got our map of South America. This area, as you should know, is Brazil. Rio de Janeiro is about here. Sao Paulo is just about here. Rio de Janeiro is the second largest city in Brazil. And on this side you've got the Atlantic Ocean. This side, of course, you've got the Pacific. So let's go straight in to the first part, the importance. And we can see our picture just here. This central image is to represent all of the elements that make this city important. And we'll start with the top part here. And we've got the letters that spell out IACT. If you're asked a question to explain why Rio is important, remember those letters, IACT. Rio has grown rapidly in the last 50 years. The IACT stands for the fact it is the centre of industrial, administrative, commercial and tourist activities. If you're not sure what administrative means, that's basically to do with all the organisation of the country. So lots of offices and jobs related to that in Rio. Migrants were attracted from all over Brazil going to Rio. Rural to urban migration. They're coming from other areas of South America as well, Argentina, Bolivia, and also more recently South Korea and Chinese people have been going there seeking new opportunities. We've got the statue of the Christ Redeemer there, which is one of the 7 new wonders of the world. And this represents the fact that Rio is one of the most popular tourist destinations in the world. So that picture reminds you of a few things as to why this city is important. In the central section of this picture, we've got some numbers on the left-hand side. Second, 6.5 million, 12.5 million. On the right-hand side, we've got some people moving to the city. We've got the 5 circles of the Olympics and the World Cup there. And these also help us remember why the city is important. Okay, so it's the second largest city in Brazil. You've got 6.5 million population. If you include the surrounding areas as well, this goes up to around 12.5 million. And that includes the slums and the surrounding settlements. The city has hosted the 2016 Olympics and the 2014 World Cup. If any country, wants to say to the rest of the world, look at me, we're really doing well, we're becoming a superpower country, they will start hosting events like these, like the Olympics, like the World Cup. It really gives a good insight into what's going on in that country. Other countries that have done this, China, obviously with the Beijing Olympics. Going down here, we've got the world famous Guanabara Bay, and you can see there's bits of rubbish in it to represent the fact it's very polluted. Um, you've also got Sugarloaf Mountain there, and lots of things were done just before the Olympics to try and clean this bay out, which is directly to the east of Rio. Okay, so the city's very important for those sorts of reasons. What opportunities are being created in Rio? Again, we've got this picture, and each one's supposed to represent a simplistic idea, so you can remember what type of jobs and things like that might be available for people to find opportunities. If we look here, we've got somebody sunbathing on the beach. So, this tells us that it's a world top tourist destination. Like I've already said, Christ the Redeemer, you've got Copacabana Beach, the amazing carnivals. People even go on favela tours now, and there's a huge range of jobs connected to tourism in the formal sector and also the informal sector. This ship here is supposed to be a container ship. There's major ports in Rio due to its location. So there's huge import and export that goes there. It's a huge exporter of timber. Of course, you've got the tropical rainforest, so Rio is one of the main places that hardwoods are exported. Sugar, iron ore, even soya beans, and all of those amazing resources that we find in the Amazon rainforest are going to be exported from Rio. Just down here, we've got a barrel of oil, which is supposed to represent the fact that you've got some huge oil companies in Rio de Janeiro. Petrobras HQs in Rio. Petrobras is actually the Brazilian state-owned or part state-owned oil company. You've also got BP there, and there's lots of other connected industries, such as oil refineries. There's big oil tankers. So it's a huge, huge industry where people could go and find work. Down here, this is supposed to be a factory. There's many factories in Rio making a variety of products from chemicals to clothes, huge textiles industry in Brazil and Rio itself as well. Because Rio is an NEE city, remember that means newly emerging economy, there's lots and lots of building work going on, improving the favelas, making new areas for people to live. So there's lots of jobs in construction. So people will come from all over the country and also all over the world to find jobs in construction. This is supposed to represent a shopping bag, written Tesco on it. I don't know whether there's any Tesco's in Rio, but it's got a huge retail sector in Rio de Janeiro. So there's an increasingly large retail sector in Rio. So this again will provide lots of jobs. As cities and countries start to do better, people generally have more money. So they're going to buy more things. This means there's an increasingly large market for people and shops and retail sectors to set up. Okay, so there's lots of opportunities in Rio. This large circle is probably the most important part of this case study. This is where we're going to look at the challenges, but also how the challenges are being overcome. So if we go into this circle, hopefully you remember this picture, which is on the right-hand side of your overall case study image. We just start here. We've got the challenges on the left and some solutions on the right. Okay, just a few things for you to try and remember. So first things we can look at. In green, we've got the solutions. In red, we've got the actual issues. So that first set of pictures there, in 2013, only 55% of people had access to a local family clinic. Now, that would be like going to a GP surgery for you and me. And lots of things are being done by the government to try and solve these issues, particularly in the favelas. And one of the things we looked at was the idea medical kits are being provided in homes, in places such as Santa Marta. Remember, get those key place names. And these medical testing kits can test for up to 20 diseases, treat them. People can self-diagnose. People are being educated on how to use them. I've put so this means, remember to always expand your sentences. So this means people's life expectancy increases. So this means people's quality of life goes up. So in the favelas, they've used these health kits and medical kits to self-diagnose and improve health. Only 50% of over 14s had access to education or continued with their education. That's a really low number. So lots of things are being done to try and encourage people to continue with their education. Grants have been given to poor families. There's lots of new establishments being opened, particularly in the poorer areas. And we've got an example there of the University of Recife, um, which was opened in the favela there. So that gives access to the poor people to continue their studies. So we've got challenges there with health and education. Just here, we've got more challenges on the left-hand side. We can see a water tap. We can see an image that represents electricity. And below that, we've got favelas and a syringe representing drug problems. But we've got to remember that there's solutions. So let's just quickly look what things are going on here. So only 12% of people had no access to clean water. And to try and solve this problem, they've installed up to 300 kilometers of pipelines have been laid to try and give fresh water. 7 new treatment plants have been installed to try and make the water pure, giving people access to clean water. The electricity supply, there's frequent blackouts in Rio due to lack of electricity. So the whole electrical supply infrastructure isn't really adequate and satisfactory. So lots of things are being done here. I think this is quite a nice, easy one to remember. New cleaner power stations are being built to increase supply. Remember that concept of supply and demand. Supply is what goes in to the system. Demand is what's being taken out. And that includes a new nuclear power station and new hydroelectric power station. The Simplicio hydroelectric power station was built to try and provide clean energy to the residents of Rio de Janeiro. We've got lots of problems with drugs and crime, particularly in the favelas. We focused on this for quite some time in the lessons. We saw that the police set up these pacification units where they go in, they could try and control the slums. We can see here, got a photo showing one of the policemen. They go in there, quite heavy-handed tactics are used, but that's to try and improve the quality of lives of people there so that the drug gangs aren't running things in the favelas. So that's police pacifying units. Okay, so see that again. Some more problems here. On the top left picture there, that's supposed to represent a person who's carrying something. And I think that relates to our friend Rocky that we saw from the Welcome to Rio documentaries. You know, he works in the informal sector, carrying things up those steep steps. So that's quite a big problem. It's a challenge in Rio. So many people employed in the informal sector. There's high unemployment, so people have to find money for themselves. You know, they could be going out shining shoes. They could be selling things on the roadside. High unemployment, over 20% of people are unemployed in the favelas. So this is a real challenge. What sort of things are being done? There's this Schools of Tomorrow program where practical skills-based courses are given to residents to try and give them some sort of life or job. You know, they're being trained in electrical skills or plumbing, carpentry. Free childcare is being given to teenage parents so that they can go and study. It's a big problem, underage pregnancies in the favelas. Of course, as soon as these teenagers have children, it automatically means their time can't be spent getting an education, learning skills. So we're seeing lots of challenges on the left-hand side of this picture, but try also to remember the solutions. Down the bottom here, we can see there's a major traffic jam going on in that picture. And if you want to remember specific facts, in the last 10 years, car use has increased by 40%. And using that statement, so this means far more deaths related to air pollution. We've got there the figure 5,000 deaths per year. Lots of things are being done to try and keep people from using cars, and to try and solve this problem of increased car use, they've introduced a better metro system, or they've upgraded the metro system. Um, the network's bigger, so people more encouraged to use the public transport. They've created new toll roads. I think that's also designed so that people won't use their cars because they've got to pay to use the roads. But these toll roads are also of very high quality. So we've got lots of challenges here. Go over them again. We've got challenges with providing an education. We've got challenges with healthcare. We've got challenges with providing adequate water supply, electricity. We've got problems with drugs and crimes and gangs running the favelas. We've got problems with so many people working in the informal sector. We've got problems with traffic congestion. But things are being done. This is a newly emerging economy. So the money is there and it is being spent to try and solve these solutions. Because, of course, these countries and cities want to join that high income country bracket. Okay, so challenges and solutions. If we go on to the next section, you have to be aware of an urban planning scheme which is designed to improve the quality of life for the poor. So the one we looked at was known as the Favela Rio project. And this incorporated many different schemes. The first one that we looked at was here, and here we can see on the left-hand side an old self-made favela style building which has been improved to more respectable housing standards. So what is site service scheme? This is where the authorities provided building materials for free so the residents can then improve their homes. Encourages people to help themselves, makes the homes safer to live in, and they basically meet much better building standards. Also, the authorities do this and they put in new services such as water pipes, electricity, sewage pipes, sanitation. So this is called the site and service scheme, where people upgrade their houses by themselves, and the authorities will also provide water infrastructure and sanitation infrastructure. The Favela Rio project includes other community-based projects to improve health, education, and overall these things are designed to improve the quality of life. Got the cable cars here as well. This was another scheme that was put in place, I think, partly for the Olympics and World Cup. Installation of the cable cars from the Favela Complexo do Alamal. I might not have pronounced that correctly, but it's been designed so it will give access to places of work for people living in the favelas. These cable cars mean that people can actually get out of the favelas without having to go up and down those windy streets. It's cut commuting time for many favela dwellers, meant they can access work and informal employment. It's also a huge tourist attraction, so brings in tourists and more spending money. But there has been problems with the planning for the poor. We can see some of these on the right hand side in red. There was a budget of around $1 billion, which is an amazing amount of money, but it's not enough for every favela. A lot of these newly built infrastructure for the water pipes is not being maintained. The money's not there to improve them. A lot of the residents lack skills to maintain these new facilities. Read a story recently as well that the cable cars have been closed due to dangers of stray bullets being fired by drug gangs, probably wanting to close off the favelas again so they can retake control of them. So things are being done to try to improve the lives of people in the favelas. This is called the Favela Rio project. It includes self-help or site and service schemes. It includes improving access to work by installing cable cars. There's education projects, there's community projects and health projects. So all of these things, this is an urban planning strategy, are being done to try and improve the lives for people. Okay, so if we move out of here, finally, we can see our overall picture. And this is what you want to be looking at the images, and then trying to remember what each represents. It's going to be very difficult for you to remember everything about this case study, but if you can remember 2 or 3 things from each section, get some uh, key specific place names, like names of favelas, Santa Marta or the University of Recife, the idea of police pacification units being set up, the name Favela Beiro project. All of these things will help you improve your answers that you may have to provide in this year's exam. So, I hope that was helpful. That was a quick run through of the Rio de Janeiro case study.